Hey everybody, so author Artie Trimble here, and this is my first time doing this as a YouTube video. Some of you know I do this a lot on Facebook Live 3 to 4 times a week, where I read a portion of one of my books, and then I read 2-3 pages of other authors' books live. And this is something I do for fun. It kind of helps me overcome my fear of public speaking. I don't ask for anything for this, so if you were watching this and you are an author and want me to read from your book, just send me a message to RustyTrimble71. That's RustyTrimble71 @gmail.com, and let me know you're interested, and we'll work it out. Or I guess you can comment on this YouTube video when it goes live. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. This is for my work in progress. It's called The Hitmom, and it's basically about a suburbanite mom who in one day gets fired, finds her husband cheating on her, loses all of her money, and gets attacked. Gets mugged attempt basically outside of a restaurant, and defends herself and finds out the guy who attacked her was a hitman and decides to take over his job. So it's kind of a dark comedy action romance. So far the early readings from some of my proofreaders have been positive. They seem to be liking it, so I'm hoping it'll take off well. So I'm going to show you the cover first off, just because I like the cover. And let me open it up here. Drew this myself. Hold on a second. Let me see. Is there a way to turn this around? Here. Well, this is going to be backwards, but oh well. So sorry about the mirror look. Still working this out. Okay. Anyways, so let's go ahead and get started. Just going to read a couple of pages. Here's the front page of the book, which also has the Hitmom on the front of it. Okay, again, sorry about the, I can't seem to reverse the camera. It is what it is. Okay. Kind of weird you can't do that. I thought you could. You could do it on Facebook Live, but you can't do it here. But, hey, it is what it is. Okay, so here we go. Chapter 1. Part 1, actually. In an amazing event of serendipity, Allison Clark loses her husband, job, bank account, and self-respect, and yet finds something better and worse. Dead and Alive, which is the name of part 1. Chapter 1. 6 o'clock in the morning is sleeping in for most parents, especially when the kids are 7 and 14 years old on a school day. Allison should feel relatively well rested, but sadly had battled with insomnia, which was the result of a half-dozen kinds of stress. A narcissistic husband, homework, bills, a boss who seemingly went to the same charm school as her husband, and living the life of a semi-single mom. "Mommy, can you make me breakfast?" It was Dominic, her 7-year-old son. Always smiling and friendly, it was hard not to smile even through the haze of exhaustion. "Of course, Dominic. Go sit down on the couch and I will make you something." She puckered her lips and Dominic gave her a kiss and a powerful hug before springing off of the bed. 1 second. Allison rolled over and saw that her husband was not in it. He was awake, and yet her son came to her for breakfast. Irritated, she arose and put on her morning gown and walked slowly into the living room. Matt, her husband, was awake and sitting at the table, drinking coffee and eating breakfast. Her son Michael walked over to her. "Mom, Dominic is hungry. Did you want me to make him a breakfast sandwich?" "That is very sweet of you, but I got this. You need to jump in the shower and get ready for school." "Okay, Mommy." He gave her a hug and disappeared into their one-bed bathroom, and moments later she heard the water running. Allison walked over to the coffee maker and discovered the pot was empty. She turned to Matt. "You could not make your son breakfast and you drank all the coffee?" He shot her a surprised look. "You were sleeping, so I drank the coffee and figured you could make more when you got up. Dominic did not ask me to make him breakfast." "That's because you told me to ask Mom, Daddy." Dominic piped in with a friendly smile. Matt turned and snapped at him. "Dominic, this is a mom and dad discussion. Don't interrupt." "Oh, please, you're just mad because he called you out." "Hey, we each have our job to do." "Really? I work full-time, do all the cleaning, help the kids with homework, make all the meals, and do the laundry. What do you do?" He smiled smugly at her. "I make most of the money because I have the better job. You earn the difference by doing chores." "Go to hell. You only got that job because of me, remember? I stayed up till 1 in the morning nightly helping you pass your tests, understand your homework, and even writing your essays." "There you go again, exaggerating how much you did. You helped me with a few postings and 1 essay. I still had to do all the work and graduate." "Really? Did you major in selective memory?" "How many times a week did I spend an hour doing your postings? Your essay on cultural exchanges was 10 pages, and I wrote the whole thing because you did not know how. Also, it is we who will be paying for your associate's and bachelor's degree, not just you. So it is not right to hold your salary over me. I don't have time for this. I need to go to work, and you need to get the kids to school. He stood and knocked loudly on the bathroom door. Michael, I got to get ready for work. Finish up. Okay, so that's just 2 pages, and that's what I do, 2 pages of every book. And since I have no idea how well this is going to translate to YouTube, I'm going to make this kind of a trial run. But that was my book in progress to Hitmom, which I just reached page 100. It's going to be released hopefully in 2020, and not sure where it's going to be published. If it's self-published, I am going to submit it to CHBB. And if not, there are also Dark Books Press. See how that goes. If not, I will self-publish, which I've done before. But we'll see how the fates run, okay? So next one is the book Asunder by my good friend Liz Holmes. It's L. Steinworth, but her name on Facebook is Liz Holmes. She just got married. And the great thing about this is she is a professional artist. And so she drew this cover for Asunder, but this is actually before she wrote the book. She wrote the book to explain what's on the cover, which I think is really, really, really cool. And this is a great book. And if you go to her website, theartofliz.com, you can learn more about her books. Anyways, let's see what we got here.
Oh, and also, hi, guys.
Oh, my son Andrew says hi.
Man, this is kind of odd.
Okay, and here we go.
It feels like the first time my father ever done a non-live read video.
I've done hundreds of live reads, but this is the first time doing it to YouTube. Okay, so here we go. Chapter 1, The Ambush. Squirrel beamed as if he just found the lost treasure of Gesmek. Understandable, as the merchant's cart passing by carried a moundful of colorful Amosian silks that shimmered like jewels. Each piece was as alluring as the next, and the boy was spellbound. Alden appreciated Squirrel's fascination. The fabrics were beautiful. Some changed from a radiant gold to a deep lavender. Others reflected leaves or the cloudy sky above, seemingly blending in with the world. But beside the brilliant luster, the silks were also desired for their durability, as they were strong like armor. An eager grin began to spread mischievously across Squirrel's freckled face as the merchants neared. Then he raised his bow. Damn it. Squirrel flinched as Alden grabbed him by the scruff. The boy shifted as if he had only been stretching his legs, then glanced up with crescent-shaped eyes, pleading innocence. Alden shook his head, knowing all too well the thief's inner desires. With a light shove, he released him. Squirrel scurried beside a nearby boulder, attempting to hide in its shade. Alden frowned. Squirrel desperately needed a new cloak, and one which could deflect a blade or his carelessness would be perfect. After years of action and neglect, what he wore now bore holes so large that it did little to conceal the thief. After this heist, I'll buy him a silk cloak, even if it means forfeiting my own rations again. Alden surveyed his other companions on the hill. His shadow commander studied the road below like a hawk stalking prey. He wore a fine black woolen cowl over a long suede jacket. Secured around his chest, arms, and legs was a complete set of thick, boiled leather armor. Alden picked at his fraying bracer, wishing he could afford such luxuries. As if sensing the scrutiny, the commander turned to exchange a glance. A flare of hatred sparked between them, and Alden rolled his head away. Higher up the hill sat Trod and Page. Trod sat tense and alert. He held a bit of rope tight between his hands, weaving it now and again between his dark ebony fingers. A buzzing bee hovered around his bald head, didn't even break his concentration from the road, ready for the ambush to begin at a moment's notice. Page, however, watched the bee with interest. When the bug flew away, the pale, orange-haired woman shifted to watch colorful leaves blow off trees, the passing of clouds, and even the ground. Rumors were that they were lovers, yet Alden could see no true signs of courtship. He suspected similar gossip was said about himself and his partner. If only. Alden turned to look at her. In the setting sun, his partner's short brown hair glowed like a bush caught aflame as it danced wildly in the wind. The lower half was longer and woven into a raggedy braid which rested on her chest. Alden followed the line down to explore her body's fit contour. Strong arms held her as she leaned against the hill. His gaze paused when her tunic fluttered in the settling breeze, showing off a set of toned, leather-covered legs. The glimmer of a hidden dagger winked at him. Then a gust of wind whipped the fabric in a flurry, sending Alden's eyes back to her face. His partner studied the environment around her with a smile. Kira. Kira leaned forward as a pair of riders trotted down the trail. Although they looked to be capable protectors, they led no carriage. Like the silk cart, they weren't the intended victims. The thief eased back down into the grass, letting her legs kick up, then sway. Sorry. I'm not wearing my glasses, so bear with me, guys. She huffed and threw Alden a look of impatience. Alden shrugged. Two dimples formed on each side of Kira's full lips as she continued to stare at him playfully. Alden wanted to glance away, disallowing his eyes, and heart the pleasure of viewing her, but he couldn't help but smile back. He knew that look. It was the same roguish one she'd given him the day they met, the day fate had allowed him to enter this life. Movement from around the bend drew their attention. It was a carriage escorted by a troop of well-armed guards. Thin, shining plate armor protected their bodies. Black capes danced proudly with the troop's synchronized steps. The carriage they protected was just as extravagant. Hand-carved details with finely painted trim outlined its curves. Lavishly embroidered curtains hung in the windows behind a decorative screen. Even the steps leading to the door had a chiseled design. "Reynold," said Trod in a hushed tone to the Shadow Commander. He pointed down the road. Ren nodded, having seen it, and crouched with a thirsty grin. "Get ready." Okay, so that was a chapter break, and I'm going to move on to the next one. Again, this is Asunder by L. Steinworth. The authors will hopefully post some links on Amazon, but check this book out. It's great. And this book is free right now on Kindle, so check it out, okay? So if you want a Kindle copy, it's free right now if you look on Amazon. I think it's still free. Okay, so next one is going to be Fragments of Light. This is a big book, 600 pages long, and I've had the privilege of owning the Kindle copy, and I bought this copy in person from the author at Mysterious Galaxy Bookstore, which is the finest independent bookstore in San Diego, which is where I live. And look at this cover. I know it's backwards again, but I mean, look at this. It almost looks like a 3D hologram, and it's really well drawn. And if you're wondering why this character looks like Billy Idol, she's loosely based it on Billy Idol. I mean, not the character, but the look. She's a big Billy Idol fan like me. And she's actually talked to Billy Idol and talked to her about this character, and that's really cool. If you go to spectrumsofmagic.com, because it's a Spectrum Magic Book 1, you can learn more about the book, download it, and see all the artwork. She has some great character drawings that are done of all the characters, and this is just a fun book. I've loved reading it. And I'm going to start from the beginning again. And Beth Hodgson, by the way, Beth Hodgson is the author. BethHodgson is the author. She's like Liz Steinworth, also from Minnesota. The two of them are both from Minnesota, and they're both in San Diego now, and great writers, and she's amazing. So, here we go. Oh, and anytime I see a map or chapter art in a book, I have to show it. And cool thing about about Beth, is she's also one of the best cosplayers I've ever seen. She dresses up in these cool costumes, and she's really good at it. She'd be great for modeling costumes. I'll just say she's a good friend, an incredible person. Okay, prologue. Gita, where are you? What era did you run off to? A multitude of stars and galaxies encompassed Suresh as he stood studying the countless time portals that hung in the starry sky like floating mirrors. The glowing, swirling whirlpools rippled with blue magic, mesmerizing Suresh with their magnetic power. His green eyes wandered, taking in the beauty of the glowing paths in the space-time continuum. They were like bright pebbled tracks, scattering colored scars throughout the galaxy. No matter how much he traveled, it never got old. Some trails were much more vibrant compared to the older ones, which had faded over time. All were colored in violets, greens, or blues. The purple and green tracks were obvious. Those were his and Gita's. But whose were the blue ones? He didn't know how long he had been searching for Gita throughout the flow of time, but he was sure it had been at least 8 years, perhaps even 9. His straight forest green hair was starting to get longer than his liking, over 3 inches or so. Hey, buddy. That's my son, Tyler. The bland gray tunic he wore was now torn and in desperate need of mending, but he hadn't bothered to fix it. He now had to find Gita. Suresh had always been one step behind Gita, their paths never crossing. He kept up the pace, but every time he gained on her, or so he thought. Gita happened to skip to another time or place, and now he felt completely lost. Every path at that moment intersected and intertwined, and he could no longer tell which violet path was the most recent. Frustrated, Suresh sat down among the paths, examining them intently. Rolling up a sleeve of his tunic, he massaged his distorted arm, pitted with scars that resembled a wild animal bite. Even though he'd healed it with his green magic years ago, he wasn't fully able to restore the broken flesh to its original state. Every so often, it burned with a tingling sensation. Memories of that day flooded him. He never liked thinking about that day, but it was the day that he made a paramount decision, one that he'd questioned every day for the last 8 years. He had consumed another gifted's blood in an attempt to aid Gita in finding her ghost man, blue gifted blood, and now he was cursed by the gods as he had done the one thing that was forbidden by them. Gita's image on that fateful day remained crystal clear to Suresh, as clear as the day it had happened, the moment she walked into the temple that set everything in motion. Her long, cascading violet hair falling to her sides as she moved, with a red scarf gracing her head. Her golden tika glittering in her hairline, capturing the light's essence, her violet eyes shimmering brightly. That image contrasted very much with the memory he had from when she unleashed her violet magic. Her hair wild, dress ripped, her jewelry matted in her hair, and all the while her body writhing on the temple floor from the effects of the new magic settling in her body, and her ferocious, deep violet eyes, so unforgiving. There was no one that could read Gita's expression like Suresh could, not even her husband, and on that day her face was masked with pure hatred, something Suresh had never seen in Gita before. Whatever vision Gita had about the ghost man, Suresh knew that she wouldn't have fought with her husband, Vihan, unless she was wholly convinced that the dream had came from the gods themselves. Suresh doubted this, but he never doubted Gita's faith in the gods. "I will never forgive you." Those had been her sharp words to her husband, the words she spoke before she consumed his blood. Suresh shuddered at the thought, not wanting to spend any more time dwelling on the past. No sense in it. In the corner of his eye, something caught his attention. A sudden burst of energy. A white twinkling comet streaking across the sky. It burned Suresh's retinas, causing him to squint. In the comet's illuminating trail, a new path burned with white energy, beautiful as a shooting star. Suresh glanced at where the path ended and saw more portals far across the space-time continuum. The new set of portals caught his attention, appearing like larger stars, only these rippled with magic instead of light. Okay, that's 2 pages. Going to move on to the next one. Again, this is Fragments of Light, Book 1, The Spectrum of Magic novel by Beth Hodgson. Check it out. And again, the authors will hopefully post links on there. Reminder again, if you are an author and want me to read from your book on this video, let me know. I'll be glad to do it. I don't ask for anything. I'm not going to call it a service because it's something I do for fun. But again, it's something I do for fun. So if you want me to read from your book, just message me either here, look me up on Facebook under author R.D. Trimble. It's R's and Robert, D as in David. It's actually short for Russell Dennis. R.D. Trimble. Or you can email me at rustytrimble71@gmail.com. Okay, the next ones are going to be from my laptop. And so let me just load this up here. I hope you guys had a great holiday and looking forward to a great new year. Okay, and so the first one is going to be Spirit Shattered, The Guardians, Book 4 by Tessa McFionn. And let me show you the cover. This is actually the one from Amazon.com. Hopefully you guys can see that well enough. Let me just make sure. Okay, and I'm just going to read a snippet she sent me to read from. And this is just an excerpt. I'm not sure from what part of it. It's just from some part in the book. The throbbing ache inside Anton's skull refused to go away. Pulses of piercing light illuminated the insides of his eyelids. He vaguely remembered the fight with Claude Fournier. Rather, he remembered the rogue warrior's ambush. He should have suspected something when a female companion suggested meeting her after her workout. What woman wants a man to see her after she'd sweated at the gym? But it had been a while since he'd gotten his rocks off, and desperate times called for meeting a girl after her spin class. Good point. Claude's attack was sloppy and sudden, but that didn't make it any less effective. He managed to shield the alley before things got too dicey. The last thing he wanted was an impromptu audience. Even though the rogues and the guardians battled on opposite sides, neither team wanted the truth of their existence made public. At least he only had to contend with one opponent. His slick foe had opted to leave his standard entourage of assholes at home. After 300 years, Anton had almost forgotten what originally started the row. Aside from the fact that Bastard and all his cronies are bent on destroying the world, he wasn't exactly sure when the battle shifted. It might have been after the top floor of the building landed on his head. Things got fuzzy after that. He must have been dealt a couple more serious blows, judging from the stinging pull of the freshly healed gash across his ribs. He winced as he rolled through his shoulders. The dull stiffness whispered of a forceful meetup with asphalt. He had a dim memory of movement, maybe stairs or something like that.
Andrew, I found something
You okay, Tyler?
have to catch.
Oh, they're talking about Pokemon.
Andrew,
Where the hell am I?
remember the thing that
Tyler.
the Pokédex said you had to catch?
It's okay, guys. Tyler, he's doing something right now.
I found a gasoline.
Good job, Tyler. Don't forget, Tyler, put that tooth under your pillow. He lost his second tooth today. Okay. Where the hell am I? The surface under him was solid, but not as cold or damp as the pavement. It had that musty aroma that spoke of disuse and an untended leaky faucet. An abandoned building, perhaps. He had passed battered tenements on his way to his rendezvous. Had he managed to stumble and stagger inside on his own? Another scent wafted through the stale air, faint yet unmistakable. Female. Somewhere in this vacant room was a woman. Wild jasmine and dark spices oozed off her skin, blending with the tang of stale smoke. Tyler's showing you his teeth. This is my son, Tyler. And he lost his second front tooth. He lost one before Christmas and the other front tooth, this one.
In my bowl.
And you're going to be here seeing the Tooth Fairy tonight. Okay, I guess he's going to join me for the video. Somewhere in this vacant room was a woman. Wild jasmine and dark spices oozed off her skin. You're going to bite me with your... No.
I want to suck your finger.
That's just weird. No, you're not a vampire. Blending with the tang of stale smoke and its stagnant water of the vacant room. He sniffed cautiously.
I want to kiss. I'm kissing it.
Okay, kiss my finger. Don't bite it. I love you, buddy. He sniffed cautiously but caught no trace of the fresh blood. She was uninjured, which returned him to the next part of his original question. Okay, Tyler. And how the hell did I get here? He begrudgingly peeled open his eyes, squinting through the haze of exhaustion. Details sharpened, and he dragged in a slow, deep breath. Cracked ceiling tiles created a haphazard checkerboard pattern. Hey, pattern over his head, and the outlines of cabinets cast square shadows on the edges of his vision. Love you too. Mwah. Something poked him in the ass. Sorry.
You said ass.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. I forgot you were here. And he slid his hand to his lower back. His blades. Clean them would be a... Tyler, I can't read this in front of you, bud. You gotta go. Buddy, come on. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. Tyler. Say goodbye, buddy. Come on. No. Okay, blow a kiss and say goodbye.
Bye.
Okay. Come on, guys.
Buttheads.
Tyler, don't say that. That's bad words. Sorry, guys. It's been a weird weekend. Okay, let me get back to where this was. Something poked him in the ass, and he slid his hand to his lower back. His blades. Cleaning them would be a bitch. The blood crusted over by now. Gingerly, he rolled away from his tremendously bruised side and groaned as he levered his body off the floor. I was wondering if you were ever going to wake up. Okay, so that's from Spirit Shattered by Tessa McFionn. Let me show you the cover one more time. Sorry about the little interruption there, but I have two kids. Okay, and I'm going to read one last one. There are a few authors who I read from regularly that I'm not reading from because I just want to make sure I have their permission. I'm sure I do have their permission, but I just like to make sure because this is a larger forum, believe it or not, YouTube than Facebook. So this one I'm going to read from is from one of my favorite authors of all time, P. Mattern, Patricia Annette. And this is her book. I'm going to read from the beginning of this series. And it's called Vampire Princess. And this is going to be awkward to kind of show this in reverse, but I'm going to show you some videos of that T. Ashby, who is another author, has done of her books. I don't know if I have one for Vampire Princess. I do not, but here's some other ones for Vampire Queen, which is book 2.
And you don't got or I got.
So bear with me for a second here. I'm just waiting for it to load. This is Vampire Queen, which is the first book by P. Mattern I ever read. It's the book 2 of the series. It's the sequel to Vampire Princess, which I'm going to be reading. I'm just going to wait for it to open. Still got the hourglass. Oops, what happened? Sorry guys, bear with me. My laptop is being a little funny. Oh, here we go. Here's the art. And Vampire Queen is probably my favorite of the series. I've read most of Vampire Princess and most of Vampire Empress, but Vampire Queen is the first one I read, and it's still my favorite of all the P. Mattern books. Let's see. Oh, I opened up the wrong book. That was the problem. So bear with me one more second. And again, I'm just going to move right to the beginning because there's hopefully going to be some new viewers here. And so we're going to start from the beginning with all these. So go to cover. Here's the cover full size again. Okay. Prologue. The hands that travel across my naked body are rough. Rough as a northern wind. Because my hands and ankles are chained together, I am helpless to stop them. My teeth want to chatter, but I exert all the control at my disposal to prevent them from doing so. It is cold in this interior room, where I am surrounded by granite walls with veins of mica glinting through them. The solitary casement windows, set up high upon the wall, affords only one winter pale shaft of light. And he has me stand in it so that he can get his fill of looking at me. My eyes are downcast, focused on the uneven flooring of slab stone as his hand travels over my shoulder, my breast and downward over my belly. He is doing a meticulously slow circle around me as I stand, treading fingers over my shoulder blades, hips, and buttocks. There is no part of me that he omits in his tactile exploration of my body. He stops momentarily, and leaning closely towards my ear, he says in an excited half-whisper, "So beautiful. I should take you right now, right here, Tristina." I can smell the dark licorice scent of absinthe on his breath. "He'd kill you," I reply immediately, my voice devoid of emotion. I do not even bother to look up as I speak. My body is numb from both the circumstances and the cold, and I am just stating a fact. He knows I am right. I am still focused on the floor, but I can hear the anger in his footfalls as he walks away to the heavy-studded iron door, raps on it once with authority, and exits. The closing door makes a final sound that reverberates throughout the cell, but to me it is a welcome sound. He is gone. Still, the finality of it causes my heart to clench in despair, and I wonder for the 1000th time how I came to be here. Vampire Princess, number 1, chapter 1, 5 months earlier. I could feel my mouth hanging open, but for some reason I couldn't move. It was like I had been stunned frozen. I was facing my mother over the kitchen island where we had both been yelling, trying to outshout each other in an effort to get the last word in the argument that we were having. She insisted I go back to my room and change because my strategically ripped jeans were offensive. I had refused. It wasn't our first argument over my taste in apparel, and probably wouldn't be our last. Don't get me wrong, I love my mom, but she was not a role model for fashion forwardness. Her typical daily uniform consisted of a short or long-sleeved Henley shirt and a pair of cringeworthy granny waist jeans. I was determined not to follow in her lame footsteps. But now I was just staring at her, because after my latest veiled insult, she had shouted the one thing that could produce a state of suspended animation in me. I had remarked in a snarky tone that I didn't see how we could be related given her clueless sense of fashion. "Tristina, I am not your mother," she had shouted back at me. She had immediately clamped her free hand, the one that wasn't holding a dish rag, over her mouth. But it was too late. Every word she'd shouted was burned into my consciousness. "What?" I finally got out, still staring at her. "What are you talking about?" Her eyes immediately filled with tears. "Oh, Tris, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to tell you this way. Your dad and I were going to talk to you soon, since you're going to be 17 next month. I didn't mean to hurt you. It just came out. Please don't." But I never heard what she was going to say next because I grabbed my backpack and bolted for the door. I took off at a run, springing down the sidewalk and counting my breaths as I ran to try to calm myself down. I thought about blowing off school entirely. I felt confused and disoriented. I had another mother? Where had she been all these years? And why had my father ever even hinted that I wasn't the child of Desiree? Desi, as he called her. I remember the two of them as the only parents I'd ever known. They'd been there through all my milestones, learning to walk, read, ride a bike, all my birthdays and Christmases, but only one of them was my real parent? I had slowed down to a brisk trot, gasping for air. It was starting to rain in a mist, the way it does in the late spring around here, and I swore under my breath as I realized I'd forgotten my jacket, and my nearly waist-length hair was going to look flattened instead of ebullient and fluffy the way it usually does. I was so preoccupied with my own thoughts that I barely noticed a car slowly following me on my left side. It was only when I pulled alongside the sidewalk, still running with the passenger side window scrolled down, that I noticed a dark-haired guy leaning across the seat and trying to get my attention. It was Seth Mullane, a boy in my class at school. He was usually pretty quiet, dark-haired, and devastatingly good-looking. He never lacked for female company at school. As he leaned over the passenger seat, his sexy anime cut hair fell over one eye. "Hey, little girl," he said, smiling slightly. "You want a ride from a dangerous stranger?" "You're not really a stranger," I said boldly. "I've seen you at school, and yes, I don't care to get soaked before class," I added, grabbing the passenger door handle and sliding in. The car I was driving was some kind of classic. I could tell that even though I know nothing about cars in general, and even less about classic cars in particular. "What kind of car is this?" I asked, surveying the intricately detailed tortoiseshell inlaid dashboard in front of me. "A 1959 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. Not a bad car," he said, deftly turning the wheel to navigate back out into the street. "It was my grandmother's. She left it to me. It's my all-time favorite ride." "Pristine condition," I remarked, looking around me and thinking that obsessive care must have taken it of it over the years. "Hey, I need to mail a letter on the way to school," Seth exclaimed, fumbling around in the glove compartment and emerging with some stamps. "Do you mind putting the stamp on it for me?" I was so distracted by Desi's revelation, a throbbing head and a heart that was beginning to unthaw and ache like it always does when I've been emotionally wounded. "Sure," I said, peeling off one of the stamps off the plastic, licking it and pushing it into the corner of the letter with my thumb. For some reason, it didn't stick well. I tried again, but the back of it refused to stick to the envelope. I made a frustrated sound to get Seth's attention and held the envelope out back to him. "This isn't working," I told him, starting to feel strange. My voice sounded funny to my own ears, like I was talking too slowly and my voice was traveling underwater. Seth gave me a teasing smile and started laughing. His teeth are brilliantly white, and even though he was still driving, he leaned over and kissed me on the forehead as I stared at him. "It was a blotted dose of acid, baby girl," he says. His voice is soothing and it washes over me like a warm wave of melted butter. "No school for you today. I don't think you'd be able to concentrate. Just sit back and look at the rainbows trailing from your fingers, sweetheart." Okay, and I do got to wrap it up now. That's my son Andrew waving, my 14-year-old. So anyways, this is those are the 5 books I read, along as my work in progress to Hitmom. Again, just a reminder, if you are an author and want me to read from your book, just send me a message either on this video on the YouTube, email me at rustytrimble71@gmail.com, or look me up under author RD, and that's R as in Rusty, D as in Dennis, author RD Trimble, and that's TRIM as in meow, yep, cat game. Anyways, TRIMBLE, so author RD Trimble on Facebook, and send me a message. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed all these books. Check out the links the authors are going to post for it, hopefully. And if you have any questions about the books I've read, how to get a hold of them, let me know, and I'll be glad to give you that information. Have a great day.